Good morning, students. My name is Shivali Chopra, and I'm a PhD research scholar who's currently pursuing her PhD from the Government Arts College Bundi under the supervision of Dr. Seema Kashyap, and I'm also a senior research fellow. Today, we are going to discuss a very beautiful and one of the most complex lyrics of English language because of its many metaphors and similes, which is titled The Ode to West Wind. Now, due to the complexity of this poem and the length of it, I would like to divide this lecture in 2 or 3 parts depending upon the subject matter that I have written on the topic. So this lecture might come to you in 2-3 parts, so please bear with me. So, to begin with the introduction of the poem Ode to the West Wind is addressed to the west wind, that is the wind called Zephyr. In the poem, the main thought of the poet is that he wants to scatter his dead thoughts and inspire the world by composing a piece of poetry that aids him in spreading his poetic word around. And in doing so, he wants to culminate an old order of things and wants to bring in a new age. To give you a short introduction, I would like to state that this poem has been composed by Shelley around the time when the French Revolution was going on. And he was away from the environment of the revolution and resting near Florence, Italy. So, therefore, this poem was composed near Florence, Italy, to be precise, when Shelley was resting around the woods near the river Arno. This lyric was composed in the year 1819 and was published in a collection of poems along with a poetic drama called as Prometheus Unbound. So, as you can understand from the backdrop around which this poem was composed, this poem is all about Shelley's revolutionary spirit, his prophetic ideas, and his desire to be a liar and harbinger of a new golden age of mankind. In order to completely understand the poem The Ode to the West Wind, you need to have a certain idea about the background of the poem as well as the poet. Now, P.B. Shelley was born on 4th of August 1792 and he died on the 8th of July 1822. He was one of the finest lyric poet of the English language, and he was often criticized for his radical views on religion. In fact, he was so exclusively loathed for his ideas on religion and his liberal ideas on it that he was expelled from the Oxford University, where he had gone for his matriculation for drafting a pamphlet pertaining to his radical view, expressing his radical views on religion, called as The Necessity of Atheism. His personal life was also quite turbulent, and he met a premature demise, or he died prematurely in a boat accident while he was quite young. In fact, to tell you the truth, the poets including Keats, Shelley, and Lord Byron were some of the romantic poets rather, who died quite early in their life. That means they died quite young. Apart from Wordsworth and probably Coleridge, none of the romantic poets were unfortunately able to attain their prime age even. Some major works of Shelley include the Ode to the Skylark, which has also been prescribed for your syllabus, Ozymandias, the Sensei, Queen Mab, Ode to the West Wind that we are currently studying, and Prometheus Unbound, a lyrical play in 4 acts, along with which this poem was published in the year 1820. Now let's talk a little more about the personal life of Shelley. It is said the second wife of P.B. Shelley, that is Mary Shelley, had a son called William Shelley, and he had lost his life apparently the same year in which this poem was written by Shelley. That is why probably he has chosen this form, that is the Horatian Ode. As I had previously told you, that Horatian Ode is quite pensive in tone, and it is used by a poet to write poetry when he is in a very reflective and saddened mood, which was evidently Shelley would have been at that point of time, since he had recently lost his son. So probably he has written this poem in order to get away from the sadness which he was experiencing due to the premature death of his son, who was William Shelley. The poem Ode to the West Wind by Shelley is composed in the form of an ode. Now, to define an ode, the ode is a form of a formal lyric which has its origins in the Greek times, and it was mainly used by Greeks at that time for the purposes of showering praise upon someone, celebrating a particular event, or paying a tribute to something or someone. So one special thing to note about the ode form of poetry is that it is formal in tone. It is used to shower praises on something or someone as a dedication, or in order to pay tribute to something or someone. Now, in Greek times, ode, the classical form of ode, used to have 3 parts, that is the strophe, the antistrophe, and the epod. Further along, there are 3 main types of ode, that is the Pindaric ode, the Horatian ode, and the irregular ode. Now, the Pindaric ode, or the classical form of ode, was used by the Greek poet Pindar, along whose conventions and styling it was made upon, and it included the 3-part form of poetry, that is, I had previously mentioned, the strophe, the antistrophe, and the epod. So the Pindaric form of ode was written in 3-part elements, that is the antistrophe, the strophe, and the epod. Further, the Horatian ode, upon which the present ode, that is Ode to the West Wind by Shelley, has been written on the lines of, or has been fashioned after. The Horatian ode has its style and conventions based upon the Greek poet Horace, who lived in the 1st century. And one very striking feature of the Horatian ode was that it has stanzas which has about 2 to 4 lines. That is, each stanza of the Horatian ode had at least about 2 to 4 lines. One another important feature of the Horatian ode is that it was used by the poet in order to reflect upon a particular issue, an event. That is, the tone of the Horatian ode for the most part was somber and serious, as while writing the Horatian ode, usually the poet used to be in a meditative and reflective mindset. Further, irregular ode is the kind of ode which, even though has a perfect rhyme scheme and structure, but it is irregular in the sense that it isn't created along the lines of either the Pindaric ode or the Horatian ode. That means it, even though having a perfect rhyme scheme, it is irregular in the sense that it doesn't use either the structure and conventions of the Pindaric ode as used by the poet Pindar, and neither the Horatian ode as used by the poet Horace. The modern ode that we have today, that means the poems that are written in ode form today, are fashioned mostly along the lines of Horatian ode, which was fashioned by Horace in the 1st century BC, as I previously told you also. This poem is divided into 5 sections. The first section talks about the activities of the west wind and the way it influences the nature in the autumn season. The second stanza talks about the activities and the effects of the west wind in the sky or in the clouds, and the way it affects them. The third stanza is about the effects the west wind has across water, to be precise on the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. After 3 stanzas, the tone of the poem changes conspicuously, and the attitude of the poet, that is Shelley, changes a lot as well. As till now, that is up till the 3rd stanza, the West Wind by Shelley has been viewed as a force of nature and how it influences it. But in the last 2 stanzas, that is the 4th and the 5th stanzas, we see that a personal note has been infused into the tone of the poetry, and now the poet goes on to compare his childhood swiftness and quickness with that of the movement of the west wind. So in the 4th and the 5th stanzas, that is the culminating stanzas, the tone of the poem changes and it acquires a personal color. Shelley had composed this poem, that is Ode to the West Wind, in the year 1819 while he was living in Italy, Florence to be precise, and while he was sitting and relaxing in the woods near the river Arno on a certain windy day in the month of October. It is said that at this time Shelley was particularly feeling depressed and isolated due to 2 reasons. First, he had recently lost his son William Shelley prematurely, as he had passed away recently in the same year, that is 1819. And secondly, he was away from the nationalist movement that was playing out in his native land and around the entire Europe. That is, I'm referring to the French Revolution. As I previously mentioned, that Shelley was quite dedicated to the idea of democracy and freedom, and at this point of time, the scholars in the literary community as well as the nationalists were quite unreceptive of his poetry, as well as his ardor of the democracy had come to a standstill all around Europe. Therefore, it can also be said that Shelley had written this poem, the Ode to the West Wind, in the hopes to infuse that same ardor and the nationalist spirit in the minds of the readers and the general audiences at that time, to bring them back or reconnect them to the idea of democracy and nationalism. Before concluding this session, I would like to talk a little bit about the period of romantic revival, since Shelley belonged to that period. One peculiar feature of the poets and writers of the period of romantic revival was that these poets and writers were quite opposed to the idea of following rules, conventions, and regulations while they composed their poetry or any form of other write-up. The second feature of the poets and writers of the Romantic Revival was that they drew their inspiration for the most part from nature. And thirdly, the third most important feature of this Romantic Revival was, for them, nature was a beautiful element to draw inspiration from. It was not a source of motherly love for them as it was for poets like William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Some major poets of the period of Romantic Revival were Keats, John Keats, Percy Bysshe Shelley, Lord Byron, William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and William Blake. Now, three very important features of this period of romantic revival were: first, they had immense love for the beauty and all the sights that nature provided and filled them with. Second, there was an ardent love for nationalism in the hearts of the period of romantic revival poets. And thirdly, there was an immense love for or attraction towards the idea of supernaturalism or exotic imagery, as we found in Christabel, the poem we had studied previously before this lecture. With this being said, I would like to end today's session and we'll meet next week. Thank you.